Do you have one of these, a household label maker? Well, if so, I'd like to suggest a couple of things that I routinely label that I think make a big difference and makes things easier. If you don't have one of these, I think it's a handy tool. Not terribly expensive, and I'll put down some links below where you can pick one up. This one here is made by Brother, and it's got all sorts of fonts and symbols, and I never use any of that. The most simple labeler would be just fine for me. And like I mentioned, this one's made by Brother. I've also used labelers by Dymo. I think they both work great. I chose the Brother because I believe the tape cost is less. And it offers good tape that is nice and sticky and durable. So far, good choice. Now, the things that I consider to be useful to label, a couple of big ones. One are these power supplies, because these things are not interchangeable. They come in different voltages and they have different types of barrels on them. And so you need to get the right power supply with the right piece of equipment. And once you get a handful of pieces of equipment that have these things, it can get a little disorganized. So if you put a label on the power supplies to what it belongs to, that keeps your organization a little simpler and makes sure you don't plug the wrong power supply into something and cause some damage. The other thing that I find to be really helpful to label is the circuit breaker panel breakers. I put a label beside the breakers identifying what circuits they go to. And I find that to be so much less ambiguous and easier to read than the chicken scratch that some electrician put in on the guide sheet on the door. And even if you can clearly read what's on the door guide sheet, you're looking through it going, okay, this is circuit breaker number 8, and you have to go through and say, I think it's this one right here. Well, if the label is right beside the breaker and it's machine printed, clearly legible, this makes things a lot easier when you need to chase down a circuit in the panel. So there's a couple really quick tips for you. There's, of course, lots of things around the house that you can label, and I find it to be a good tool. I also find it to be a good tool for labeling cables. I'll put a label on a cable connector, and if I want to make sure that it's going to last the test of time, I'll put a wrap of clear tape around it. And I find that that is super durable and long-lasting. And so that makes it a lot easier to connect and disconnect equipment at the shows, because I don't have to chase the cable and figure out which one's going where. If you're doing a lot of cable labeling, there are commercial devices made just for cable labeling. They come in at a little higher price point than this Brother, but that's what the pros would use. But for me, so far, this has been just perfectly fine. Appreciate you tuning in, watching the video, and I'll catch you again on another upcoming episode.